Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Chris Wright. I'm a landscape photographer based in Granada, Spain. Now this week I wanted to talk about new software from DxO. It's DxO Viewpoint 5. Quite a substantial upgrade on the previous version. And I wanted to do something different here. So Viewpoint 5 is software that's designed probably primarily for architectural photography, although it does have its uses in other areas. But I wanted to do some architectural photography, so I took a wide-angle lens into Granada Cathedral. Let's get into it. So what we're going to do here is to try to get a shot of Granada Cathedral. We want top to bottom in frame, and we don't want any of the nasty converging verticals that you tend to get in these pictures. So I've got a wide angle lens on 16 to 35mm. I'm going to try shooting at 100 ISO. F8, so we're going to let plenty of light into the camera because it is a bit grey, and we're going to go for it. And this is an absolutely brilliant example of the problem that everybody faces when they shoot architecture, because even with this 16mm lens I cannot get the entire edifice in shot in one go. So we'll just take the first shot here. So how to get around the issue that we've just looked at. If you want your verticals to be straight, you have to have the camera level, especially with a wide-angle lens. With a wide-angle lens, it really exaggerates the issue if you start to tilt the camera up. So as we've seen in that shot, I've got lots of foreground, but in keeping the camera level, I can only really get up to the beginning of the roof of the cathedral, which doesn't really do it. So my options in this particular case would be to back off further, thus giving me some sky in the top and a much smaller cathedral, which I could then crop into. And this is a perfectly good strategy that works really well if you've got a really good camera with lots of megapixels to play with. In this particular case, I only had a couple of yards behind me, so this was never going to work. And I didn't have a tilt shift lens with me. Now, the other way that you can do this is to use a tilt shift lens. So you can set your lens, set it level, use the shift to push the level of the lens up, and what this will do is it'll take away some of the foreground, and it will add distance, height to the top. Okay, so we're going to go inside the cathedral now and shoot some of the interiors. Now, there's two things to watch out for here. One is it's very, very dark inside there. It's like twilight, so I'm going to have to bump up the ISO a lot in order to get these to come out clearly, and they would prefer if we don't speak inside there as well. So if I speak, it's going to be little whispers that you may struggle to pick out on the soundtrack, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. What I'm doing is I'm going to bump up the ISO. We'll try it around 2000 to go higher still. Okay, so we shot a lot of images inside Granada Cathedral, and of course Converging Verticals are part of that story. Now, there are certain shots that you're never going to correct the verticals, be it with a tilt shift lens or any other software, hardware, whatever. But I don't personally think that's a bad thing. There's a lot of really great architectural photography in this kind of location that shows converging verticals, and it looks absolutely fantastic. It can add a dynamism to the scene. The one thing probably to avoid is straight on converging verticals, so that you've got this shape going on in the camera. If possible, that doesn't look so good, but shooting from the base of a column, for example, can actually add a dynamic to the picture. So it's not something that you have to really agonize about. It's something that you can sometimes correct in software. And what we're going to do now is have a detailed look at DxO Viewpoint 5 and show how some of these issues in certain cases can be resolved in software. Let's get into that. Okay, so we're going to start this off from Lightroom in order to demonstrate the software in standalone mode. So it works as a plugin for Lightroom. It can also be accessed through DxO Photolab, and several of the controls surface in DxO Photolab once you've installed Viewpoint. Okay, so here we are in Lightroom. Right, this is the picture that we're going to work on. Now you can see that some of the problems that we've mentioned already are here in this picture. So this picture was taken wide-angle lens at 35mm, and it was angled quite steeply up in order to get the ceiling and so on into the picture. So we've got these converging verticals. These lines are not parallel. So that's why we want to take it into Viewpoint, see if there's anything we can do about that and other bits and pieces. So we go to Edit In, and we go to DxO Viewpoint 5. And here we are in DxO Viewpoint. So here's the picture exactly as it was in Lightroom. And the first thing that happens is we've got a rather stern warning that we need to get the original picture before we can apply corrections. Now the reason for this is it's using the EXIF data that's bundled in the original file. So what I've done with this, because this was recorded at such high ISO, is put this through noise reduction. So we're going to open the original copy of this first. So it is 8089. We go to the dialog here, we go to here, and here are my pictures. So I had the foresight to do the conversion, put them into a DxO subdirectory, so it's easy for me to get back to it. So 8089, 8089 is this one, and we can open this up, and here it is. Okay, so now if we do auto here, we can see that this is actually applying some alterations to the picture. But let's come back out of there. So your workspace is arranged such that the picture occupies the main body of it, which is as it should be. You can do before and after, compare with the original image. You can do that side by side. You can always click to fit to screen. You can view it in full size, zoom to 100%. These are very large files. You can overlay the grid, and you can have the guides toolbar. If we just put that on, First off, let's have a look at the distortion panel. So these are optical corrections based on the DxO library of lens corrections. So nothing too drastic here. So we can have a look at the manual, and what you'll see immediately is that there's been some correction for barrel distortion here, and that's because using the wide-angle lens, barrel distortion is very much a feature. If we take that off, I have to say, I mean, this is a very high quality lens, so it's not immediately obvious, but what barrel distortion is it bulges slightly out to the right, towards the outside of the frame, straight lines appearing in the middle. So there is a very, very slight bulge going on here, but it's almost imperceptible. If we put that in the correction point, I mean, these lines are now straighter than straight, so we'll put that to the default, which is 50. Pincushion is the reverse of that. So what the pincushion correction has done is actually push it out and create some barrel, because there is no deformation. So if we took pincushion off, we go back to what it looked like in the previous screen. So there was no pincushion. And fisheye, if we just apply that, you will see it transforming the picture into what is effectively the reverse of a fisheye view. Okay, so we weren't using a fisheye lens, so we can take that completely off, have that completely off, and really I'm not seeing a great necessity to have distortion on here. So let's move to volume deformation. Now what volume deformation is again with certain wide-angle lenses. This one was a 16 to 35 lens, and it is very faithful to true life. It's a really good lens, this, and so I can't really show you massively how this works, but what it does is effectively extend or magnify lines exiting at the very edge of the pictures. So if we look in this area, if I put this onto horizontal and vertical, you'll see there is an immediate correction in the horizontal. If we take that off again, okay, so you can see that slight distortion that it is correcting here. So we'll keep that one. This one is diagonal. I don't think there's anything really that I would want to change here. It doesn't. There's nothing that makes any difference to the picture. If I turn it on, perhaps better on than off, but you're looking at these areas here. So yes, these are exaggerated compared to this, but I don't think it really hurts the picture very much. So we'll leave that as is. Now perspective is the one that this photograph we are going to be able to make some corrections. Now you can see that these lines are not parallel. So if we were to go to auto, we can have a look and see what that might look like. And you can see now that we have actually brought in a little bit of barrel distortion. This line up here looks like it's bulging ever so slightly out. So I'm not going to use auto. If we do this manually, we can see what happens. So if we move this to the left, you can see it's effectively tilting this picture towards us. Yeah. So I'm going to take that. That's gone a little bit too far. We can take that. And I would... Okay, now what I would do here... Alright, those look pretty straight. We have got a little bit of that barrel in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this back to auto. And that off to there. So you can see that this is something of an iterative process. So I think we're pretty happy now that these lines are straight. Now what you'll have noticed is that we're sacrificing effectively quite a large portion of the ceiling in order to do this, and the reason is because it's constraining to the crop at the bottom corners. Now we'll see in another dialogue, in fact we'll see in the next one, how this manifests. Now Reshape Fusion, this is really largely for things that are actual faults in the image. If we click on here, we'll overlay the grid, and you can now see the rest of the picture. So in order to constrain the crop to the narrowest point in that correction, we've effectively flipped the picture, rotated the picture, brought the top forward and made these lines parallel, which leaves us with a crop that looks like that. So the lesson to take away from this is always leave yourself a lot of headroom when you're doing something like this. So when I was shooting this, I couldn't obviously visualize exactly how much I would need, but I knew that I didn't want this curve to disappear in any sort of correction. So I deliberately shot with a lot of headroom up there. Okay. Now, with this picture, I can't really show you much of what, I can show you what it does. What I'm going to do instead is show you something which will give you a clue as to what some landscape photographers have taken to doing with this software. Right, imagine this was a mountain. Now, what I could do is pull the top up. Okay, now that's obviously distorted this, but watch now. If I go propagation, turn that halfway up, it immediately adjusts the entire picture so that it will fit. Okay, so what we've got now is a vertical version of the picture, and we've increased the height quite a lot of the dome up here. Now, for me, I have to say this is a bit of an ethical dilemma. I don't tend to, I won't say that I don't increase the height of mountains at all, ever. Sometimes when you're using a wide-angle lens and your distance point is nearer the center than it is the top of the lens, it will be diminished by the wide-angle lens, and none of the corrections that come in the software will compensate for that. So sometimes you do want to pull your diminished landscape up, and this is a way that you can do it which looks really, really natural. and is, as far as I'm aware, is pretty much unique to Viewpoint 5. It's very, very powerful. Okay, so that's Reshape Fusion. You can take that up to 32 points. You can set a custom shape. You can alter the rows and columns, and you can do a merge moving from one to another so that you don't lose your sort of place. So you can use a basic grid to get the main points of the picture aligned, and then you can subdivide that, and that takes you up to the next one without altering what you've just done. Do that again, it goes up another step, 16 by 16, 32 by 32. Okay, and we can go back in exactly the same way. So Reshape Fusion we like a lot. Horizon this is simply leveling. This is really straightforward. You can do that with auto. You can see it's made, I had this pretty level. So you see it's made virtually no difference. Now we can also change the angle here. Okay, and it will automatically constrain to the crop. Put that back to where it was. Crop is exactly the same as you'd expect it in any software that we've used. So preserve the aspect ratio, we can choose another aspect ratio, or we can add a custom aspect ratio and click the constrain to image if you don't want to have to do that manually. Okay, and the last thing to demonstrate here is the miniature effect, and to do that I'm going to need a different photograph, so let's reset this. Okay, so same thing, go to edit in Viewpoint 5. Okay, here we are here. So the first thing I'm going to do with this, you guessed it, is to right, so we need to open the original image, 8046. So the miniature effect does this. Now what we might want to do is, let's bring it down here and just make these people more miniature. Now, so we've got some controls here that we can use. Now these affect this is the area of sharp focus, this is the area of out of focus, and it's this contrast that creates this miniature effect. Now we can change here the amount of softness. We could take that completely away if we want. I'll leave that on the default. We can do the same with the top there. Now what you'll see is that these are not independent of one another. So these are setting it for both. So where we've got this set to 50, that's 50. So the idea is this mirrors, and we can also basically alter the abruptness with which this change comes in. All right, so here it's very abrupt, here it's not so abrupt. Now, if we make it very abrupt, you'll see the miniature effect, so-called, in action. So we can apply that, and the idea of this is we've thrown this area out of focus, we've thrown this area out of focus, and it makes it look, in a sense, as if these people are toys or models. That's the idea of it. Probably not the greatest example in the world, but that's what the miniature effect does. Okay, to summarise, Viewpoint 5 offers way more flexibility and way more control than any Adobe product, or indeed any other products that I've seen in this space. So personally, I think Viewpoint 5 is well worth the price of entry. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. It's been a bit of a longer video, but I think we've pressed quite a lot of material in this week. And don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, and we'll see you next week. Thanks very much indeed. Bye.